Signs of the Southland, we have Ken Sugiura of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution here on this fine Sunday night to talk about the spring game. Let's head over to Bobby Dodd Stadium for the first time in 2023. The Georgia Tech football team has played its spring game rather, yesterday, Saturday at what was it, 1 p.m.? It was like a midday. It was a very nice day.
Yeah, it was.
Yesterday.
Yep. Gorgeous.
The Wreckham team playing in white beat the Swarm team playing in gold 42-24. See, there's something in my notes that talks about the color of the jerseys, and I'm going to immediately assume that Jake has some thoughts about this.
I have to explain this to a collective group of people that were averaging 2 tech degrees, not just your bachelor's, but your bachelor's and your master's. And yes, on the screen, there was white and there was gold, but you can't play an all-white jersey team against the other, and it was always white versus gold, which is why, and I realize that this is really hard to follow if you weren't playing the game, which is why you'd see a guy in a white jersey get a touchdown, and then it would go to the gold team on the score. It was not a
I didn't even notice that.
white versus gold. No. I'm not crazy here, I promise.
No, this makes sense. This makes sense.
That's why you had
in keeping with the highest of Georgia Tech traditions, they've over-engineered sports scoring. I think a hearty congratulations should be delivered to everyone involved in that.
The offense was in white, and the defense was in gold.
So the defense. So the defense. So there's 21 or 24 defensive points and 42 offensive points.
If I can do it?
No.
Yes?
That was no.
You've now overthought the overthinking.
Yes, that's how Auburn did it, where they had one offensive team and one defensive team. That made sense, and they finished in a tie. It was kind of crazy.
They tied.
The headache that I'm developing is worse than like a finals week at Tech right now.
The quarterbacks and punters and kickers were in green. So I don't know where they got the green jerseys from. That's like
all they had to do was have one team wear blue or pull out a throwback. I don't know, just something. There's got to be some collection.
That's a rights
sitting in a
violation
box.
if I've ever heard one.
In my head canon, they just burned the Black Watch jerseys after the whole Jeff Collins era ended. But
surely the Under Armour jerseys with 5 different shades of gold and yellow on them were sitting somewhere.
Russell Athletic.
Oh boy,
Jack.
I didn't go far enough down. I'm so bad at this. I'm so sorry. This is my thing too. Dang.
So that Jack can recover. Let's go over some statistics. Wide receiver Malik Rutherford, 7 catches, 154 yards. Not a lot of defensive scheming here. So a lot more explosive offense, which is nice to see. 863 combined yards of offense. Texas A&M transfer Haynes King played with both the white and gold teams. I'm not thinking about how to explain that again. 13 for 22, 276 with 3 TDs. Zach Pyron, 11 of 16 for a $153 and a touchdown. Zach Gibson, who I was not aware had eligibility still, interesting. 7 of 12 for a $106, and then Amari Harvey, 6 tackles, 2 passes broken up, and a forced fumble. In terms of attendance, I think most of one of the corners of the lower bowl was full. I think you have it at 10K, Jack.
Yeah,
they announced
that's a good estimate.
They announced it as 10K. Yeah, I guess they weren't like they couldn't be counted because there wasn't ticket scans or anything like that. So it's a guesstimation, best I can tell.
It's a vibes based estimate.
It felt good. It felt full. I mean, relative to past games, like it felt hearty. People were excited.
And they put everyone on the TV side, so that way the TV cameras saw that there were people there.
Critically so, yes.
Yeah. But also that helps for concession staffing and security and things like that. So I think it makes a lot of sense. One thing I did want to note before we got too far away, I think King and Pyron were certainly standouts in terms of quarterback play. Love to see Brody Rhodes get his time in the sun, but I was pretty pleased to see Pyron getting some wheels out there too. It wasn't necessarily like full tackle for the quarterback or anything like that, but it doesn't seem like he's really lost a step or anything with the collarbone injury. So good to see that there.
Yeah. Ken, how full
Well,
was the
I
press
would be
box?
surprised if he lost a step with a collarbone injury, personally.
I can't win. I'm just gonna mute myself and go get another slice of pizza or something, man.
All right, Jack, you were
To be fair,
asking
you
Yeah,
you
yeah.
said that I went up.
How full? Yeah, how full was the press box? It looked like there was some decent amount
there
of folks
were
up there.
let's see. There were 2 guys from 247, 2 guys from Rivals. Yeah, 2, and then I think Jackson Cottle from SI was there with I don't know if it was a friend or a coworker, and then me. So that's what are we at, 7? And then there might have been TV there, so maybe 8 or 9. Yeah,
Still pretty good.
yeah.
That's odd. I appreciated the push notification that I got to my phone as I don't know if I was walking home or getting back to the apartment afterwards, but the 836 combined yards of offense I appreciated. Like just lump them all together. Tech won, Tech also lost. That's my favorite vibe about the spring game. I don't want to say I'm a hater of the spring game. I get it. I like being able to go to Bobby Dodd as much as the next guy, but like, really, it's an exhibition, right? And I just think it just leads to interesting peculiarities, whether it's the white versus the gold type deal or lumping. You saw Pyron playing for both teams. You saw King, I believe, playing for both teams, and Gibson too. It seemed like the quarterback play was pretty fluid. That's for sure.
One last note before we get everyone's thoughts on a final roundup. There are a bunch of awards given out that I'm now seeing on social media, and
There
they're
was a
all
lot.
named after alumni. This is pretty neat. I'm going to scroll through and read them all. Rock Perdoni, outstanding defensive lineman, was Akilo Stone. John Davis, outstanding offensive lineman. Jordan Williams. I'm amazed that Brent Key didn't put himself on that one personally. Randy Rhino, outstanding defensive back award, went to
Rhino.
Miles Brooks.
Love that guy.
Joe Hamilton, outstanding offensive back award went to Dante Smith. Calvin Johnson, outstanding receiver award. Malik Rutherford. Keith Brooking, outstanding linebacker. Trinelius Tatum, Pat Swilling Reckham Award, which I guess is not a positional one. Sylvain Yonduin, Bill Curry.
I like Swarm team. Oh, sorry. Can somebody from the Swarm team win the Reckham Award?
I don't know. That seems like it would be some sort of violation of protocol.
Only the quarterbacks could. They played on both teams.
That's
and the kickers.
God,
Sorry.
This is such a mess. Bill
I
Curry.
want to hear about Bill
I
Curry.
like
Love
to
that guy,
practice.
too.
Well, no, it's actually
Bill
Sylvain was
Curry.
on Team Swarm, so yeah.
Oh, we've got
No.
another. This is exactly the kind of spring game fodder that I was talking about.
This is the scandal we've been waiting for.
Congressional investigation inbound into the Reckham and Swarm team voting. Bill Curry, I
sorry.
like to practice award went to Jalen King. Demarius Thomas Community Service Award, Dylan Leonard. Bobby Dodd, Outstanding Walk-On Award to Jason Moore. Eddie McAshin, Most Improved Player, Jakaya Leftwich. Billy Shaw, Commitment to Excellence Award, Will Sissom. Brandon Adams, Outstanding Teammate Award, which is player voted. I believe the only one of these that is player voted, at least the only one that's indicated, Joe Fusili. So I'm surprised that list actually ended. Honestly, that was a lot of stuff.
It was a lot. In the stadium, it was like they just kept going, and then they showed the table, and there was like 15 different little mini trophies on there. And I didn't realize they were. Have they done that in past years? I'm not remembering a laundry list of awards that immediately, like 5 minutes after the game ended, got handed out.
No, I was asking Mike Flynn, the SID, and I mean, I my time covering tech is excuses a little bit. He's remembered and I go back to Paul Johnson's the 2011 season, and there's never been anything like this. I really kind of like it. I mean, I know when Johnson was coach, they had Players of the Week, and when they won, and that's something that Jeff Collins did also, and he had various kinds of Players of the Weekend. But I think at the end of the season there was it wasn't an MVP, but it was like offensive and defensive champion or something like that, and maybe like walk onto the air. But no, yeah, but as far as like a positional award,
Yeah.
no. And I think it's great because these guys work hard, and it's always
Yeah.
good for them to be recognized in some way or another. Yeah.
They all look like
As
little discs of glass, I think,
Yeah, they were
at least
kind of
from one of
glassy
these
things.
pictures.
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
you got them from the invention studio. I don't know how you get any time in that with 2110 competition this week. But the thing I was going to say, I think it's just a good, warm and fuzzies type thing to let the fans
Right.
see it too. And maybe not everyone in the stadium would recognize Billy Shaw if they saw the name because but everyone knows Megatron, and there's clearly a cachet, just from using the names and just giving some recognition. So I'm sure that's appreciated by the players as well.
I think one of the other things that comes out of this too is that there was some sort of alumni reunion along with this game. I saw some pictures of a whole golf tournament with both the current players and some of the alumni. There was some sort of dinner as well, if I remember what I was seeing correctly. So they turned it into a whole little event just for football alumni, and I think that's nice. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think I was listening to Joe Hamilton on the radio. He obviously taken part of this, and I think there some element of it was J Bat or somebody challenging those attending to we've got to support this team, and so I don't know that they are holding them upside down and shaking the change out of their pockets, but yeah, I'm sure there was a sense of let's get behind this team, not only from a presence standpoint, but I think financially also was my sense of it.
I'm going to composite some quotes here, but the vibe I've gotten from Jay has been that we have to invest in the things that we have on campus to the best of our potential abilities. So that makes a lot of sense, whether that's, backing football, backing men's basketball, making sure that they're well endowed to compete, right? Those are things that matter to, the alumni and the success of the program. And it's probably for the best that they're maybe they should be shaking the change out of their pockets, but maybe they should do that to
I'd like to see what that happens.
Akshay and Jack as grads too, but
to that point, there was a autograph signing event for the Techway NIL group after the game. I saw some pictures of that as well. So they were shaking someone down for cash at some point. So I think all in all, pretty good weekend, a pretty good event. I think there's football season is still a bunch of months away, but it was a nice little weekend, I think. Ken, do you have anything else, anything we should be looking for as we head towards the start of the season in August?
Well, like in terms of things that are coming up.
In terms of dates or maybe things that you saw on the field that we should keep an eye on.
Sure. I mean, I guess as far as the spring game goes, I mean, I think as Brent Key made note and was pretty clear just watching it, it was very tilted towards the offense. Like the defense could only run, a couple different calls. And I think I went back and watched the first half again. I think there was maybe one blitz, and I don't even, who knows if that was even supposed to happen, but so it was very, and then plus like the team Reckham was like the first string offense, and the counterpart on defense for Team Swarm was a first string defensive line, but a lot of backups in the secondary and linebackers. So it was, very, I think, what Branke wanted was let's have put some points on the board and entertain the fans, and that was what happened. So I wrote something today just saying that it's, everyone's going to, not everyone, but I think people say like try to determine like, oh, Haynes Kling should be starting or Zach Prine should be starting based on what they saw. And I don't imagine that what happened yesterday will weigh very heavily at all. But I mean, all that said, even though they were often making fairly, maybe not easy throw, but easier throws, they were still making them. And Malik Rutherford was getting open and making plays. And one thing I did notice was that they threw the tight ends a lot, and they just seemed like and again, you take it with a grain of salt, but um, they're doing a lot of misdirection that seemed to, free guys up. So that's, it's encouraging. We'll see what happens when they're playing, another ACC team and not team Swarm. But yeah, so a good way to finish. Like I think it was a good vibe kind of a weekend. But as far as what's next, it wouldn't surprise me if a few guys go in the portal, and they may try to go after a couple more if scholarship limits allow. And that Brand Key was mentioning that they'll finish up. And the semester's coming up, and then they'll start off-season workouts or summer workouts, and they have kind of an OTA style practice that they're allowed to. So and then the summer camp recruiting season kicks in. So a lot going on. Football never really stops completely, but as far as what we'll fans will see, it's we'll have to wait till September 1st in Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Yeah, that is the major date left. That is September 1st at Mercedes-Benz Stadium versus Louisville. That is a ACC league game. That is the Monday night
Friday
Chick-fil-A kickoff game.
Friday night.
They moved
Friday night Chick-fil-A kickoff game.
If it even is a
what
Chick-fil-A
an
kickoff
event!
game, have they announced if it's part of the Chick-fil-A? I guess it has to be because they already have
it is. Yeah.
It is okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Tech home game.
Yes.
So they'll have control of most of the tickets, but it'll be presented as a Chick-fil-A kickoff game.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What a fun time.
All right.
Certainly,
Cool.
with the Clemson game, and then the Louisville game, and then the
Notre Dame.
Florida State game next year, it makes for 3 interesting starts in a row.
Yes.
Yeah.
That do be a lot.
As always, we're going to talk our brief little trivia moment. There is not really an easy way to segue into this, but for those who are regular listeners, I almost said readers, enjoy reading this podcast. It's a visual medium. You may recognize a couple of the themes from these questions have been oddball teams that Georgia Tech have played, weird records, things like that. And at the sake of not wanting to bite off more than I can chew with this question, today is going to focus on men's basketball, but the question is going to tie back into some of the themes we've talked about with baseball in the past. And if you're familiar with, let's say World War II era college football, you'll know that Georgia Tech played a variety of oddball military teams. So we'll start there. Gents.
Interesting.
Throughout the illustrious history of Georgia Tech men's basketball, oh, no, Siri, do not kick on.
I'm just waiting to hear that we played the Allied powers and lost 42-5 or something like that.
Well, and we're not going to include Army, we're not going to include Navy, we're not going to include Air Force. That's old hat. Those are colleges, those are institutions, right? I'm talking about
Space Force, though. All in.
Space.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll get to that because there's some nuance that you're kind of getting at with how you joke right there.
Oh no!
But throughout history, since 19 whatever was the first season of men's basketball, Georgia Tech has played a number of military teams. Again, not Army, Navy, Air Force; those are not included in this number. I want you to guess just a number, and I promise I'll talk through it. But how many, let's say, forts, infantry divisions, airbornes, pre-flights? How many of those teams do you think Georgia Tech has played?
And this is men's basketball specifically.
Men's basketball, because it's very famously something that happened in football, but no one ever talks about men's basketball.
Interesting.
It gets more interesting, I promise.
When
Unique or games? Unique opponents or
unique
games?
teams, unique opponents.
Unique opponents. Yeah, I figured we had to have played Fort Benning or something like that at some point, being close and everything.
We did.
That's the easy one.
Probably McPherson.
That's not the closest sport with which we've played a game against.
Oh, that's right. There's other ones nearby. Oh boy. All
If
right.
you take Marta to the airport, you'll know this one. Another one.
McPherson.
Right.
Yeah,
yes.
that's 2.
Okay.
You're not going to guess all
so
of them
it's-
just
well,
by
no,
putting it
yeah.
out there. So you're going to have to get a number
Let
so
me-
I can move this along.
Let me offer this. I will say
Yeah.
it's 50. 50 unique opponents.
Whoa, that's way too high. Way too high. There are 56 total on this list, not just military, but in the other categories we'll get to in a minute.
I'll go with 7.
All right, Jack, you have a guess?
I'm feeling in the 18 range.
Ken, if you get the prize. It's actually 8. But
Oh, wow.
I said there was nuance. Here,
Okay.
right? One of the teams listed is the U.S. Marines. And
I was wondering about them.
This is where I posit to you. Are the Marines an academy? I've never heard of a Marine, like, basketball team.
The Merchant Marines are.
Merchant Marines, yeah.
Yeah.
But that might be a different thing.
I don't know. So, anyways, it's 8 or 7, depending on how you slice the U.S. Marines. That includes the 176th Infantry, the Atlanta Naval Air Station, Camp Wheeler, Fort Benning, Fort McPherson, Georgia Pre-Flight, who I know off the top of my head we've also played in football, Mayport Naval Base, I don't know where that is, and the U.S. Marines. All right, moving on. There's a couple other categories I've broken out here.
This keeps going.
Another interesting
This is
one.
awesome.
This is a classic Georgia Tech exam question. You see, it's only 2 questions, but there's 18 different things you have to answer just to get through 2 pages of questions.
This is
It's all on
fantastic.
brand. It's all on brand.
The best category on here is unknown, so we'll get to that in just a second. But
so that's just like my physics test.
yes, exactly. Actually, I'll say the unknowns now. Agoga class, AGOGA space class. No idea. It could be a
that a high
foreign
school group?
semi-pro team. I have no idea. And then the other one is Dixie Portland. I've heard of the Dixie Stars, which is also in this somewhere, but whatever Dixie Portland is, I did not have time throwing this together to look up what they were. So those are your unknowns. But we've also played a number of YMCAs. I'm not going to just have you guess a number because that's not exciting. We've already done that. What instead I will posit with is there are a number of places that have YMCAs that also have schools of the same name, which we've played in basketball. I want you to take a guess as to one each.
Did we play the Georgia Tech YMCA?
No, we've never played the Georgia Tech YMCA. That's a great guess.
I was hoping.
Oh, so we're naming...
Naming schools that had YMCAs? Okay.
Yeah. A school they're all cities as well, but Macon isn't a school. But what is a college, name YMCA, which we've played historically? There are 10 YMCAs with which we have historic games played.
This is a dumb question. But it's not the name of a city; it's the name of a school.
It's the name of both a school and a city. So Akshay's guess of Auburn, while incorrect, is a great guess because Auburn is the town.
Right. Okay.
I'm guessing we had to play our friends over in Athens. Bullets around friends.
Nope. That's also not the name of their school.
As much as I want it to be.
Knoxville?
You're missing the cardinal part here, Jack.
Is it Miami?
The name of the school and
Another good guess. The one that comes first to mind is Clemson. Clemson YMCA. I didn't know Clemson had a YMCA, but we've played them. Another one out there is Cincinnati, who we've played in basketball. This one's a little bit more oddball, but I would take Jacksonville as well because of the Jacksonville State whole, that whole deal. And we've played pure Jacksonville. I lied. So that one does count straight up. The interesting fact I'll leave you before we go on to the next part is that we played the Mexico City YMCA. I don't know why. I don't know why. Don't ask me. I have no clue. All right. Again, not trying to let this drag along. We've played 11 clubs of various types. I'm just going to read through some of the highlights there because they're interesting. The Arundel Boat Club. Don't know what that is. Atlanta Athletic Club, a classic. They're everywhere. Birmingham Athletic Club, same vibe. Crescent Athletic Club, also a classic. The Havana Yacht Club.
Oh, boy.
I don't know. The Knights of Columbus. The Lorraine Lions Club. And then the Savannah Athletic Club. And I believe the Savannah JEA stands for some sort of, I think it's their Jewish association, but I'm not sure on that one. Moving along, we've played 4 company teams, including the Islay Dairy. You may remember them from the baseball episode where we talked about weird teams that baseball and basketball have played before. We've also played the Marathon Oil team, which is like a legitimately historically very good program.
Right,
I remember putting this together and looking them up and being like, why do we play Marathon Oil? And then it's like they were actually like a marauding band.
Did we play Coke? Did we play Coke?
Nope. We've played the Phillips Oilers and an Atlanta Classic, Southern Bell, which is AT&T for those who don't know their history of telecom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Such a wild random list of just. Well, I mean, it's college basketball that's been around a long time, and it's easy to put stuff down, or get teams together and everything. You just need 5 random guys. Like
I don't know who these Dairy Boys were, but they needed 9 of them for baseball. So
yeah,
all right.
It's still wild.
I've let this drag along a little bit, so thank you for indulging me. I've got one more category. On the way to that category, I will note that we played 9 semi-pro or all-star teams, 6 international pro teams, including teams from the Netherlands, Bulgaria, Newcastle of Australia, Team Focus, which I believe is an esports Valorant team these days, but I think
you're right.
I couldn't find a connection to the basketball. Turner Field, I wasn't sure how to categorize them, but
Turner Field staff, like
I don't know. Turner Field. I'll look up the date on that one because I was more curious to look into that. And then the Varick reps. But our last category that we're going to go into some detail on is national teams. This is a pretty straightforward question. How many national teams and who have Georgia Tech played?
Well, you named 2, so we know it's Bulgaria and the Netherlands.
Nope. Those are international professional teams.
Oh, sorry. International professionals. Interesting.
They played the Soviet national team, right?
They have in fact played the Soviet national team in men's basketball as well as baseball. So Ken's got the first one.
The Canadian team? I don't know. I feel like it'd be some nearby ones.
I'm guessing they played Spain, maybe?
Oh.
Nope.
No?
Australia.
Yes. They have played Australia.
Wow.
I don't remember where I remember that from, but it had to have been an Olympic tune-up.
Oh, this is a good question.
Also, it's 5,
who played
6.
it? Who played in the Olympics here? That's a good way to think about it. I just don't know who played in the '96 games. So
there are 3 left, and if you
is Italy one of them?
Nope. Nope. I'll box you into Eastern Europe. Really, that whole.
Oh, okay, Serbia.
Oh yeah, if it's the Soviets, that kind of limits you to the Warsaw Pact.
Yeah. Well, Yugoslavia.
Yugoslavia. That's one of the 3.
There we go.
There's 2 more.
Greece?
If you know anything about me, I'm 25% one of these.
Polish.
Yep.
Nope.
What?
Nope. I'm not quite 25% Polish. But if you know anything about
Czech.
1500s Europe, they're friends to the north, whom they were the same country as for a long time.
Oh.
What are the Latvian, Lithuania, Estonias?
Lithuania. That's one of them.
There we go.
Last one, it's a little bit of overlap with Yugoslavia, but if you want to think 90s post-Yugoslavia breakup, that'll get you there.
Croatia. There we go.
Nice work, Jack.
Coach, you know.
Oh, yes, that's cool.
Oh, Tony Kukoc.
Yep.
I remember.
I don't know if he was on
dance.
that team at the time, but I assume he was.
I probably, yeah. The heart of those Bulls.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Grant, for your physics tests of a trivia segment. Thank you, Ken, for spending some time with us today.
My pleasure, as always.
Do you have anything you want to plug before you get out of here?
Not especially. I mean, I'll have more. I mean, actually, there's plenty to write still from football. We did a lot of interviews and some good stories. Well, hopefully they'll be good coming up this week and maybe even the next week. So nice. AJC.com, and appreciate everyone's readership.
All right, let's jump over to Ken Byers. Let's talk men's and women's tennis. The men won 4-3 at Virginia Tech, but then dropped, I think it was like a 1-6, 6-1 decision to UVA, who's the number 7 team in the country. On the women's side, for senior day, It was senior day today. They played a close one versus Miami, but Rosie Garcia Gross, who was honored earlier, was able to clinch the victory. Earlier in the week, they lost a 4-3 decision to FSU. Mr. Grant, anything of note in these two sports to talk about?
Yeah, I want to note that it was Monica Didash as well on senior day for the women. I'd say that 1-1 will probably keep them right about the same place. They, like we said last week, they have some work cut out to them now in the ACC tournament. If they want to be hosting, I think that window may be closing. Meanwhile, for the men, going 1-1, I believe leaves them still flat at 500, which also leaves them with some work to do. But that is with respect to the tournament. So, the tournament at all, not just hosting. So, kind of an interesting position for both of them. Kind of that borderline 1-2 for the women, borderline out for the men. So, not gonna belabor too many points there, I'd say.
So, just to talk about the men a little bit more at length, what do they have to do over the next couple of weeks here to solidify their tournament case?
Well, they've only got the ACC championships left, and I would say 1-1 ain't gonna do it. 2-1, 3-1 is sus, which kind of pushes them into needing to win the tournament, which is not a great place to be. 3-1, I think, might give them a case, but I don't think that's incredibly likely. So.
And on the women's side, what did they need to do, in your opinion, to get into the hosting mix?
They're currently sitting at 20 outside looking in. I'd say, they can't go 1-1. They can't go 1-1 if they want to be in the mix. I think they have a case for it, especially given their quality of opponents. Maybe if they would have pulled off one or two more of the ranked wins up there earlier in the season, they'd be in the mix. But like I said, I think the window is kind of close to closed on both of those. I hate to be a downer, but
it feels like with how stacked the ACC is, they're going to need to really put a dent in that tournament to convince whoever makes the decision. let's put another ACC team in the hosting situation because there's already a lot of us in that situation.
I mean, it's essentially the SEC softball or baseball scenario where there's only 16 slots. There has to be some sort of geographic distribution. Yes, top 16, but right now I don't even think they're in the top 16 period. If they were at 16, I'd say, 1-1, 2-1 to do it, but I think they need to go 3-1 or sweep on through. So,
speaking of another team that has a lot of work to do to improve their tail end of the season, Georgia Tech baseball has had a rocky week. It's had its ups and downs. They had a walk-off. Was it a walk-off grand slam? That's the thing that I saw come across the line. A walk-off grand slam to beat Auburn earlier in the week. That is a 12-8 win in 10 innings, a walk-off grand slam by Jackson Finley, despite being terrible with runners in scoring position and bases loaded until the very end. So there is
another
that.
Auburn game another Auburn game where we were recording at the same time and it got crazy late and went to extra innings. It keeps happening.
I need you guys to
one of these days
something because I need to reference a specific fact. So Auburn, a lot of heart attack baseball, a lot of bases loaded left uncapitalized on. If you guys can give me 30 seconds, I'll have the stat that I'm looking for from the media guide.
Of course, Jake and I are still emotionally recovering to this day from the 2019 walk-off in the regional.
So it's not going to get any better once you hear this.
Oh boy. No, I remember being at the game that day and going the tin drum once the rain delay happened and then just completely bailing on going back to the stadium and then watching that on TV. That was the worst. Yeah. That was the worst.
There are things that we can still legislate about that, but it's been at this point it's been a full graduation cycle since then.
It really has.
So not really any necessity for that, but it was something we'll note in a couple minutes here after Jake figures out his stat that he wants to pull.
Yeah. So,
it's a completely different team and a completely different program. At this
Tech
point.
is 113, 126, and 5 all time against Auburn. But the fact that I want to let's just say put out there is if you go back to June 1st, 2019, kind of think about where you were, watching us getting our hearts ripped out. They have played, including that game. It's their last six contests is from June 6th, 2019 through today. So over the last 4 years, three of the six of them have ended with a walk off. I feel like that's pretty notable, is it
That is.
not?
That is a lot. That
Statistically
is
unlikely,
very
to say
unlikely
the least.
statistically. Just having one is statistically unlikely in that small a sample size too.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all playoff baseball.
It's not good for the heart.
No, it's not. It does not
Good
make you want
for
to watch these games.
aspirin manufacturers, I'm sure.
Sure, but
No one
for my
seriously.
sanity,
That's a
not so
golden
much.
joke. It's a
Yeah.
That's a golden joke for those in their golden years.
They already make
Disappointed
it.
in
They already
both
make
of
enough
you.
money at Georgia Tech.
True.
Boo. Let's talk about the VT series real quick. That was a three-game sweep by the Hokies, 10-7 on Friday, 13-1 on Saturday, and 9-2 on Sunday. Notably, the Sunday game was a Terry Busey start that doesn't look like it went so hot. You have a couple notes here, Jack. I believe this is you, about a lot of weirdness in that Friday game.
That one was Jake, but I have the mic. I cannot ignore Saturday's walk to hit ratio that our pitching staff allowed, just to really emphasize like it's not good. Like we are going backwards pitching wise. They allowed 18 walks and to 7 hits. 11 more walks than hits were allowed that day. One guy got 5 for VTech, which, as we said before, I didn't watch the game, but 18 is just so glaring that either we were missing the zone just that badly repeatedly, or their hitters were ridiculously disciplined and could actually draw 18 walks in a game. Which you could be disciplined and draw a lot of walks, but 18 that's stupendous.
Statistically unlikely, again.
Statistically very unlikely again, but like that's on par for Tech this year as well. Just ridiculously weird stuff that it's college baseball, so you'll get more weird stuff because there's a higher variance of team levels and all that kind of stuff. But it that just that of the things that I saw this weekend, that got me most like, okay, this isn't good enough anymore. This is nowhere near good enough.
Yeah,
Mr. Grant,
it's
on the
not.
Friday game.
Yeah, I was listening to that on the radio, but I will say, like an hour of the listening was not really listening because there was a 40-ish minute lightning delay, and this was after Luke Schmokey had already warmed up to start the second, and then a foul ball went off the head of the home plate umpire who needed to be treated for 10 minutes and then taken to get additional treatment and all the hullabaloo with that. Essentially, he got cold twice in the inning for extended periods of time. I'm not going to write off the entire result, but you kind of put yourself in a bad situation if your starting pitcher has to deal with, an hour of erratic and weird events, gets chased early, and then you're digging into your bullpen pretty early in the series. I don't think that's entirely ignorable in terms of obviously it doesn't explain 13-1 entirely, nor 9-2 entirely, but it's at least worth noting in terms of how that had a knock-on effect the rest of the series.
One of the things I noted,
it was a bullpen day to end all bullpen days is kind of what I'd like to put there when you're burning Cameron Hill for 3 innings, who's been, I would say, pretty effective.
He's
Tony
been good.
Carlisle
I've liked him
for another inning and 2/3, and then Noah Samol for 2. Cameron Hill did let in 5 runs, but he also inherited some not great situations as well. Yeah. So I would say it's certainly a bit of an asterisk on the Friday game. Again, great win Tuesday just to get a win against a pretty quality Auburn team. But man, it did not set them up for success later in the weekend.
Yeah. One of the things that I sort of hinted at when leading into this is that between that June 1st, 2019 game that you mentioned, Jake, where Auburn walked Tech off in the Georgia Tech regional, the Atlanta regional, between now and then, we've had a full graduation cycle. And this team is honestly it's completely different other than for one piece, right? And that has been consistent issues with pitching. And at least since that point in 2019, it's evolved from just issues with bullpen arms to issues across the staff. And it's not really an evolution, it's more metastasized, to use a more negative metaphor. It's a problem, and it's hard to pinpoint a singular cause. But at the level that Georgia Tech is recruiting baseball talent at, aka the top 15 to top 10 to almost top 5 level, not being able to have a consistent, and not even being able to have, I mean, it's, you don't, not even being able to have one consistent strikeout pitcher every weekend is immensely frustrating. And regardless of whether
one
that's in the
starter
pen.
that we can know is going to be effective for, I think the average start this year is like 3 innings. That's not good. It's just not.
It's unacceptable.
Yeah.
It's not just not good. It's just unacceptable.
That makes Sunday.
Right?
That will always make Sunday just immensely difficult because you've already burned through way too much of your pitching staff, and you just gotta hope and pray you got someone left that can carry the load, or be a closer if you need a closer.
And this sort of ties into the tournament, right? Like if you are, and it's something that we saw last year with Zach Maxwell, and the other, and Josiah Siegel as well.
Mm-hmm.
When you, if, to be clear, if by some miracle they make the tournament this year, the NCAA tournament, to be clear, this year, and maybe the ACC one is in jeopardy. I actually haven't looked at the standings in a bit. If by some miracle they make the NCAA tournament this year, they're going, because of the way that they've been pitching this season, they're going to be in the exact same situation that they were last year, where it's possible that they burn all of their halfway decent relievers, however many of those there are, in the first game or two to trying to pitch manage, and are left without arms for the back half, depending on where they go. And you're setting yourself up for failure if you cannot develop at least one consistent. It's just one. I'm asking for one. I'm not asking for two. Two would be great.
The state of Georgia has
one.
The state of Georgia has many, many good pitchers. They're here. We have them. They're on our doorstep. Got to go get them.
And I don't.
Jack,
I don't know what it is.
Eligibility, right?
I mean, I top out at about 65, and I only have a curveball. But I mean, I know how to throw strikes. Yeah.
I think as long as you can locate the strike zone, I'm willing to take you up on that one.
That was my best skill as a pitcher. It was that and changing speeds. These college guys would be able to time up, I think, a 54-mile-per-hour curveball pretty easily, though.
I don't know. You see a lot of guys striking out on EFISs these days.
Oh boy. Well, it's easier when you're throwing 80 and then the EFIS comes when the fastball's only 10 miles per hour faster. You can accidentally time that up. Anyways,
I think you got in the back, but I'm not going to say anything that trods new ground here. I don't think I've said anything that treads over new ground. It's just, we identified this as a weakness of the team before the season. We have noted it consistently, like every other week or every couple weeks.
Yep.
And it is still a problem and has arguably gotten worse over the course of the season. Terry Busey aside, one bad outing does not maketh the man, but like the rest of the staff other than him has been incredibly disappointing.
18 walks.
And I'm not happy with it, to say the least. Anyone have anything positive to say before we go to a short break?
At least we beat Auburn.
Beat Auburn. They still hit. We still get some good offensive firework things and stuff like that. So, I mean, even if any games at Rush Chandler, there's the remaining left, should at least be offensively firepowered in both directions, sadly, but we can hit still.
I say this as somebody who does not remember the days of playing them regularly in your football and men's basketball, but just based on all this Auburn baseball drama and softball drama, and also swim club rivalry meet with Auburn, man, I really like beating them. So I'm gonna ride that high just for a little bit until the inevitable midweek game that comes up, because I fortunately did not tune in today to be disappointed, and Saturday was at the spring game. So I don't want to harp too much on them. I feel like between between men's and women's tennis and baseball, I haven't said a ton of awesome, positive, fun time things. So I'm going to use that to segue into something that's always fun and reliable and can be counted on, and that is Section 103. Section 103, I can say this with full confidence, has never gotten walked off, nor have they given up a buzzer beater. What they have given up is free shipping on orders over $70 every day. They've got some great designs. I guess their classics have really been around just about the entire time that they've been up in action. I will say at the top of my personal list is the juniors girl shirt. Is that recency bias? North Avenue Trade School crew neck, also probably recency bias, but they've got some great stuff. Whether that's your classic tech or ATL logos, some baseball specific things, some volleyball, basketball, and of course football specific things. And I saw actually a number of designs out and about over the last couple of days with the spring game. So great to see it out on all the tech fans who are at the game. So, and myself included, if I do say so myself. I'm a rambling wreck from Georgia Tech, and a hell of an engineer shirt has consistently gotten compliments from opposing fans, including on the road. And if that's not an endorsement, I don't know what is. Like we said, free shipping on orders over $70 every day. You can find them at section103.com and at section103 on Twitter.
Welcome back to Signs of the Southland for April 16th. Let's talk about off-season volleyball scrimmages. Mr. Purdy, what you got for me?
Woo! This was, Saturday was great. I didn't go to the first scrimmage was Middle Tennessee State. Then you got the football scrimmage, and then you can go back and we played Georgia in O'Keefe. I missed the Middle Tennessee State part. But it was still pretty full for the Georgia match, which was really fun. Georgia only brought 9 players. I don't know if you're in that weird Pitt situation we mentioned where they can't even field like a whole practice squad right now, or if that's just who they decided to bring. I don't know. But we had our whole team there, Julia Bergman and Breland Morissette. Sorry. There we go. Julia Bergman and Breland Morissette both were dressed. They weren't in the uniforms, but they were there, and Coach Collier let them still play a few points here and there. Julia actually got a decent amount of playing time in the second and third sets, serving and being part of it, so that was really nice to see. She's off. She's about to graduate. Breland's about to graduate. So it was good to see them play. They played 3 sets. Georgia won them all, and both very closely. I think they won 2 of them 25-23, and then the other 25-22 or something like that. But Collier was rotating a lot of people in that usually wouldn't play. The newest transfer from Texas, Deandra Pierce, she played a decent amount as well, which was really good to see her come in. She's not listed on the roster yet, but she will be. At least she was wearing the number 1 uniform, so it looks to be the case there. But the vibe was really fun. I had a great time there. Jay Batt showed up. The new guy that we just hired for fundraising, whose name I'm forgetting already. He came for a little bit as well. Crowd was good.
You should get them some funding to do that renovation they've been talking about.
They will. I did. Someone from the team did mention that they're going to be working on the AC in there. They've been doing
roof work the past couple of months, so that makes sense.
So the physical conditions of O'Keefe should be improved for next year because for anyone that was at the Louisville match or knows about it, the floor just gets super moist really quickly.
That is a shame.
And it's
a shame, I say.
It sucks. Which is with how humid it gets outside, and they use that breezeway just lets so much air in the front lobby. So it's not their fault. The building was built well before there were ideas of putting a very good volleyball team in there with that type of floor. And so it is what it is there. It's an old building, and they can't turn the fans on because it affects the rotation of the ball if they do turn them on. So they're limited in what they can do but they're working on it. So hopefully we won't have that happen again. Because if it gets that bad, eventually you have to evacuate the arena just because you need to get humans out of there to just dry it out. Literally, it's a whole thing.
I would simply decide to make my stadium a Metrodome. That's what I would do.
I would say they should just play
complete with collapsing due to snowfall.
Sure.
I would say play in McCamish more often, which hopefully they will. And based on what happened last year, I think they're certainly looking into it. So we'll see how that
I'm
goes.
a sucker for O'Keefe, though, man. It's just such a
No,
great
it's an
environment.
advantage. It is totally in it. There are so many little bits of it that are advantages. So I imagine that'll still be the long term plan is to play there and to get a little bit more money in the pockets when they need to do some McCamish games. But anyways, we look fun. It was a great time. We'll see what the schedule looks like when it comes out. Who they play in and who they play in non-conference. So we'll have. I think the next time we'll talk about volleyball is probably late summer when we find out all that.
Yeah, when they update their schedule and also start playing some more scrimmages,
Yeah.
I think is when the next time we'll talk about them. I say it's a shame that they're replacing the AC, by the way, because the amount of moisture in that building and how stuffy it got was a legitimate home field advantage.
I mean, it is. It's a home court
It
advantage
was disgusting in there, though.
until you can't play for like 20 minutes, and then it really just throws everything off. But
That was
no,
pretty funny. Them asking students to help clean the floor
Yeah.
was pretty funny. I have to admit.
Yeah.
But it's a lot. Yes, I'm glad they're getting the AC fixed. I'm sure they'll probably just turn it up in a couple hours before the game and then shut it off.
Yeah. No, I wonder if
But see, that messes with humidity too, because if you're doing real cold versus real hot, whether it's windows or the roof or whatnot, the roof, which is black and bakes in the sun all day in the Atlanta heat, which is also a factor as well. You still got to be careful. You can have cold air coming out, but that's something that does affect the ambient air quality.
I would say the best
as
way
long
to
as
do
it
this,
doesn't create like literal rain clouds inside the building, I think we're fine.
I would say the way to do this is to have people come in on the other side of the building, but the problem is you have to go through like the locker room to get there and stuff. So it would at least eliminate some of the doors open and whatnot to expose outside, but it's too much.
I'm not convinced that there's I've never gone that way because I've never had a reason to go that way, but it's offset by a level, like basement versus
right. Yep.
Ground level's not equal on both sides. So I'm not convinced there's, vertical circulation core, let alone concession, bathroom. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could just still keep those at the other end, but it just, I mean, the only thing that benefits is people walking from Midtown MARTA and people who park in that lot over there, I guess.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's about all we had on volleyball. So let's move over to Shirley Mewborn Clements Field and talk about softball a little bit, except softball was in Pittsburgh this weekend. They posted a 2-1 series victory over Pitt. The Sunday game was capped with a Ginsaleo homer and an Emma Kalf double that moved her into third in program history in doubles with 47. A lot of innings on Saturday. That game went to 10 with Tech pulling out a seven-run was it a fifth inning, and then promptly giving that lead away. And it ended up being 11-11 heading to the ninth. I think ended like 13-11 or something
like that.
Stupid like
Friday
that.
Friday was extra innings too, and we got walked off on. So
wild series. Mr. Grant, the question I have for you is we talked the last time I was on the show about how Tech really needed to take care of business versus Pitt in BC in order to get themselves in good shape for both the ACC and NCAA tournaments. Given that they've gone 4-2 versus these teams, what say you about their NCAA tournament hopes?
I don't think it's unreasonable to have desired 5-1 against that. Pitt's a reasonably solid team, I think is fair to say. They certainly are better than they used to be, but them and Boston College are hanging out, being pals at 94 and 95 in the RPI, which is just really not a good loss to take. Right now,
conference too.
Yeah. Right now, I think just looking at how some of the numbers are shaking out, who's ahead of us in things like RPI and results, and the things that the tournament committee takes into account. I think Tech's again right on the bubble. I think they're 46 in RPI. Again, they've had a phenomenal schedule. Do not get me wrong, phenomenal scheduling. which is why they're as high as they are, despite being, I believe it's, what is it, 22 and 19?
23 and 20.
23 and 20. Yeah, so I'd say they're right on that, last four in, first four out bubble. It's kind of where they've been sitting for the last few weeks, to be honest. Getting their head above 500 is really good. They need to continue to do that. Looking right above them in the RPI is a little bit interesting. So naturally, I start using the nitty gritties to just kind of talk through some of the stuff we're seeing from other teams, since it's all in one spot. And right above them is Wisconsin, one place above them. And you got to think that it would be nice to have those two games back in hand, given the relatively similar performance between the two. But I mean, they just, it's two opportunities to beat a really similar team and make that difference. Because if you're thinking about head to head, and Wisconsin's got a pretty similar, resume and numbers to Tech, but Wisconsin's 2-0 against them. That's kind of damning, don't you think?
So to move on and talk a little bit about their ACC tournament position, is there still work that needs to be done to get them into the tournament, or is it just playing for seeding at this point as we go towards the tail end of April?
You're saying in the ACC tournament, not the
in the ACC tournament,
NCAA. Yeah, I mean, they're currently sitting outside of the immediate danger zone, I think is a fair way to put it, but they're
still in the
relegation picture.
9. Yeah, they're like 9th, which would have them also, and you got to think about this too, right? There's 2 play-in games to the ACC tournament, so there's value in getting, I believe that's 6th instead of 7, 8, 9, 10. Or is it a bye? They shook this up a couple of years ago. Can't remember if it's 2 play-ins and then. However it would work out, they're still in the
there's value to being a better seed.
Yes, exactly.
Not to say the obvious, but like breaking out of that bottom 4, there's some value to it.
Yes, exactly. And of course, you've got Syracuse, Pitt, and Boston College who are on the outside looking in. NC State and Georgia Tech, who are at 6 and 12. Those are going to be, your bottom 2. Tech does slot in a little bit above, at least in how they present the conference standings. I will say that in terms of teams in their neighborhood, Tech does play North Carolina still. That's 7 and 9 in conference North Carolina. That's worth noting. Tech also plays Duke. So I would not say, and Duke is a very good
Duke
team.
Duke is really good.
Currently 13 and 5. The RPI is actually really, really high on the top of the ACC. All these SEC teams kind of slot in this weird miasma between 8th and wherever the worst one is. Mississippi State's probably like 43. I don't know if there's anyone below them. But the top of the ACC, your Florida State, Duke, and Clemson, they're all top 10 teams. And I don't need to tell you guys that because we've talked about that plenty of times on this year fine podcast. Tech could very well go to Durham and take 3 losses, which is why they need to take care of business against UNC. And that's also why between Boston College and Pitt, we said those were kind of must wins, right? You had the Virginia series. Virginia's better than they've been. Going 2-1 is fine. But Florida State, Clemson, and Virginia Tech as a collective 0-9 with Duke still on the table. Yeah, this weekend's going to be a big tell. Kind of taking a look at Syracuse, who's the next team behind Georgia Tech and NC State. Hughes does have Virginia and Boston College left. Those are winnable games for Syracuse. So just putting that out there. Tech losing to 2-13, Boston College 1 game is also not ideal. Not to harp on that, but I would not say that they are safely in the ACC tournament yet. They'll need to take care of business against North Carolina, and a sweep would also vault them above North Carolina in the standings. So maybe a lot to ask for, but would certainly make me feel a lot more comfortable about their chances. And that's the ironic thing about all of this. They're a bubble team for the tournament, but they have such a gauntlet of a schedule and that they're 6 and 12 in conference play. So
it's been a very
I know that was
weird
a
year
lot.
for them.
I just kind of,
it's
Yes.
it's still kind of where we have been. It's just like we scheduled really great. We lost the games that made sense for us to lose, and we're winning enough of the ones that we really needed to win to stay afloat.
Yep.
And we're still on that same path. Got to play Duke. Got to play UNC. We got Georgia State this week, which is more of an NCAA tournament thing. Just please don't lose, because losing that will be a lot of problem. We also mercy ruled them earlier this year, so it should be just fine. But the pitching's looked
Take care of business.
Yeah, I'll know.
Take care of business.
Yeah,
I will say one thing. They rescheduled Alabama State for
that's right.
this week too.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's not going to be on the road. That'll be at Melbourne on the 19th. So they do have another opportunity to at least notch a win, which doesn't help them in the ACC, but would help them in the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
Not that Alabama State is a world beater. No offense to the Hornets, but they are currently at 252 in the RPI. So
you just can't lose.
Yes.
You cannot lose that game. You absolutely cannot lose that game.
Yeah. So it's going to be a grandstand finish, to use a soccer term, a grandstand finish to the season, I think, for Tech. It's going to be interesting to see how some of this stuff shakes out, especially with the path here basically being, especially if you toss the Duke series, win and you're probably in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So grandstand finish, I think. Let's move over to the track. I believe this week's tournament was the Florida Relays, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Grant. Jameer Gibson and Omar Arno were in play this weekend. Gibson had a PR in the men's hammer throw of 55.8 meters, finished in 8th place. Arnaut, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, was 3rd place in the men's high jump with a 2.04 meters. Gibson was also in the men's discus. He placed 5th with a mark of 56.05 meters. Anything to add here, Mr. Grant?
Not too much. It's another one of those sports that's kind of in the home stretch, if you will. There's some action left on the calendar for them, but in terms of the meat of it, it's the home meet next weekend. That's the Georgia Tech invite. Penn Relays and LSU will be a split weekend. So if anyone happens to be in Philly the 27th through the 29th, that's like one of the most historic events in American collegiate sports. So definitely go check that out. But yeah, 2 weekends left of the regular season.
All right. And our last major sports update of the week, golf played a very strange match play tournament, invitational, ? Called the Ramblin' Wreck Match Play at the Golf Club of Georgia. Tell me more about this, Mr. Grant.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this came up kind of at the last minute, because when we checked the schedule last week, this was not on it, unless we were just blind. Jack, I think we explicitly said that the next thing up was the ACC tournament, but number 12 Georgia Tech. Yeah, I was gonna say number 12 Georgia Tech hosted Charlotte and Ohio State at the Golf Club of Georgia. That's, I guess, technically I don't know how they consider their home course, but it's where they host.
Yeah,
I think it's technically East Lake. The thing I remember is that it's technically East Lake, but they play in and around.
Have they ever played East Lake? Do they even play?
But they usually host at Golf Club of Georgia. That I'm very confident in saying.
I swear I swear.
I thought
the collegiate invite.
I thought it was Bobby Jones. Huh.
No,
okay.
that's not Bobby Jones.
No. Someone is definitely paying to be like the official, golf
sense.
course of Georgia Tech athletics.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's probably why they have all those alumni fancy schmancy rounds that they play at East Lake. But anyways, Golf Club of Georgia, Creekside course. I have not played it. I don't think I'm invited. Anyways, they tied Charlotte in match play. They beat number 26 Ohio State 5-3. Not a ton to add there. Match play is pretty interesting. There wasn't a ton of, advance warning on this in terms of the results, in terms of the points. They played a shorter lineup against Charlotte. That may be due to travel constraints. I'm honestly not sure. Like we said, it was 5-3 in the Ohio State match, 3-3 against Charlotte. Lamprecht Forrester, and Ritter were your losses against Charlotte, while Steelman, Ty, and Howe all won. It was a 4-3 for Howe, so that was pretty notable in terms of ending that one pretty quick. In terms of Ohio State, always good to see more folks get to score. As we know, there were 8 points contested there. Tran, Lamprecht, Forrester, Ty, and Howe were your winners for Tech. Mao, Steelman, and Rutter were your losers. Ty, Hiroshi Tai, was up 6-5 in his match play, which is your high bar on the weekend. So great to see there, taking care of business, with plenty of holes in hand.
It's awesome to see them playing more match play, especially since that's what both of these tournaments turn into, right? Both the ACC tournament and its final stage and the NCAA tournament are both match play in their final, the final 8, the final 16. So you want to make sure that you get some reps in, especially considering, was this last year where they went to the ACC tournament versus Wake Forest and it went to extra holes in match play. So there you go.
Get them used to playing.
It's coming.
Just put it on TV or ACC Network Extra if you can. I like watching.
It was great. It was great drama last year. I don't even like golf, and it was fantastic drama last year in the match play final for the ACC tournament. Great fun.
Yeah.
I think that about wraps it up for sports updates, unless you have anything else, gentlemen. I know we have a couple other items to go through here. To be clear, varsity sport updates. To round out our other sports, first up, Club Sports Men's Lax. They posted an 11-1 victory over Florida State in the SELC quarterfinals. They will play Florida in Jacksonville next up in the semis. That is a TBD on date and time. In our other Dane sport of Survivor, Mr. Purdy, give me an update on our friend Carson.
Carson's still alive. He's still there. He's actually like a weirdly good spot, I've realized now. This modern era of Survivor doesn't exactly incentivize being the front and center of everything, and he is not the front and center of everything. Would recommend watching. It's about to get to the meat of the season and the really good parts about to start. So he's in a good spot. People like him. No one wants to vote him out, and he's really good at puzzles because he 3D printed all of them and memorized all of them. So that has already come into use a couple times. It's kind of cool.
Do they give them the puzzles ahead of time?
They don't, but they have reused many puzzles, and so if you've seen them, you can study them and create some. Like, there's a couple challenge items you can just make in your backyard, and they may show up in the season. There's some puzzles that pretty reliably have shown up the last few years, and if you know how to do a slide puzzle, that's one thing. There's like some specific designs, like the one that Carson made was like a 3D printed tree. So like the puzzle pieces were like branches and whatnot coming off a stem, and you had to fit them all together. And he had already do it. It took him like 2 minutes to finish it because he had done it 1,000 times at home. It's becoming a thing in Survivor that fans are liking and not liking, that you can practice the challenges ahead of time, even if you don't know if they're coming.
Gotcha.
I don't know. That's just the type of advanced preparation skill that Georgia Tech teaches its students.
I mean, yes, it makes perfect sense that Carson, of all people, would be the one just mastering this. Sometimes you just got to build the rocket while you're flying it. It's just part of being an aerospace engineer at Tech. Exactly. I think that actually wraps it up for sports. Mr. Purdy, you have one update from our construction corner. Yes, if you've been on campus recently, that section where like all those little like that tree line area right next to Tech Green, in between that and the student center, they've been doing some piping work under there, and finally the pathway on the north side of Tech Green, so the lower part of that area, going up to the staircase that takes you to the flag building and to the theater and all that part, like towards the CRC, that finally got finished, and so now all the main arteries around Tech Green are fully open again, which they haven't been for a while. So
it'll last about 5 days before they shut
something like that. I know
something is going to come up inevitably.
There will be. It's not full. The construction's not fully done. There's still, but like there's still some fencing up. There's still some fencing up, but no walkways are being interfered with anymore. We have passed that.
Good. Also, when do we sign off on all of the infrastructure for Campus Center? Can we get a date here?
I don't know. I did see after the spring game there were some families that brought their kids to the fountain and they played in the fountain afterwards, because you can do that now at the Campanile. So that was really cute to see.
Yeah, it's not just a diving well.
Yeah.
And then, Mr. Grant, you had some updates that came out of a meeting a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Because I am who I am, I often wind up watching the random campus strategic master building planning dealio type stuff that Georgia Tech puts out every once in a while. They've been doing some town halls on this new master plan that they're doing. I'm only going to tease what some of the stuff was there because I don't want to spill it all. And we can definitely, and will definitely be doing a full episode on this very soon. So if you're interested in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years of what Tech's campus is going to look like, we're going to speculate wildly and also just talk about some of the general ideas. Obviously, none of this is set in stone, and if it were, we wouldn't be the first people to know, but certainly something that will make for some interesting summer fodder. So expect that coming up soon.
Fantastic. I think with that is it for us this week. Mr. Grant, roll us out.
As always, you can find these fine episodes posted at fromtherumbleseat.com along with articles with the show, but also with all the other great content going on the site. You can email us for comments, suggestions, topics that you want to hear us discuss, questions, things like that at fromtherumbleseat@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at FTRS blog. You can find these there and also interact with us. You can find me at Jake Grant. You can find Jack at Jack Nicholas on Twitter. You can also find Section 103 on Twitter, Section 103, and section103.com for the finest Georgia Tech merch. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at From the Rumble Seat. You can find us wherever fine podcasts are distributed. I use Apple, but some people use Spotify, and that's okay. We love them just the same. In the meantime, have a great week. Good night, good luck, and go Jets.